All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving headfirst into the massive and, frankly, terrifying world of modern digital campfire tales from India. We are going to break down the exact anatomy of these viral stories to see how they perfectly blend ancient folklore with very modern anxieties to keep millions of viewers awake at night.
Okay, let's just start with a chilling concept that really sets the tone for everything we're analyzing today. Quote, "He eats shadows, and if he eats yours, you slowly die from the inside." Now, this describes an entity known as the death putia, and it perfectly captures the deep psychological dread these narratives rely on. It isn't just about cheap jump scares, it's about this creeping, inevitable erosion of your safety.
Section 1. The Digital Campfire.
So, you might be wondering what exactly makes these stories so special. Well, these aren't just your run-of-the-mill scary animations. They are the direct, modern evolution of the traditional oral ghost story. They take these ancient cultural fears, curses, jinns, betrayed spirits, and they transplant them directly into highly relatable everyday settings. The horror is no longer trapped in some crumbling old ruin. It's happening right in your apartment building, on your daily commute, or in your college library. And that relatability is exactly what makes the digital campfire so incredibly effective.
Section 2. Wrath of the Wronged.
Let's look at how the classic wronged woman trope plays out across three completely different stories. In every single instance here, the horror is a direct reaction to a profound injustice, and it's usually tied to motherhood. We have a surrogate murdered for her baby, a wife beaten for being barren, and a young nun whose baby was secretly killed. The vengeance in these stories isn't just random malice, right? It is a tragic, absolute, and completely unstoppable balancing of the scales.
And look at how brilliantly they twist innocence into horror. Chanda Hai Tu is a very sweet, traditional Indian lullaby. But in the story of flat number 18, it's being sung in the dead of night by a terrifying shadow entity hovering right over a pregnant woman. By putting a mother's ultimate comfort song into the mouth of a vengeful spirit demanding an unborn child, the narrative entirely strips away your last ounce of safety.
Take the Highway 44 story. Kamlesh, the truck driver, actually survives his horrific crash. He seemingly escapes the physical danger. But later on, he receives a photograph of his ruined truck. And sitting right there, right next to him in the passenger seat, is the ghostly woman, just smiling. It goes to show that escaping the ghost physically absolutely doesn't mean you've escaped the curse.
Section 3. The Price of Curiosity.
Let's talk about the haunted library story, where a group of arrogant college kids brings ghost hunting tech into a sealed room. Notice the steady, terrifying progression. Night 1, it's just easily dismissed faulty wiring. By night 2, the entity is actively draining their devices to trap them in the dark. And by night 3, it manifests into full-blown physical violence, completely trashing the room. It's basically a perfect 3-act structure of escalating dread.
But here's the twist. Their arrogant curiosity actually unearths a real tragedy. They discover the librarian was murdered 2 decades ago and denied her proper last rites. Granting her peace actually requires a complex, ancient ritual by a local tantric. The real takeaway here? You don't defeat the haunting just by fighting it. You have to solve history.
Now over on Mystery Island, curiosity comes with a much more gruesome price tag. When treasure hunters dig up this iron coffin, they unleash an ancient king's curse. And man, it is incredibly visceral. The awakened witch doesn't just scare them, her gaze drives them completely mad, making them inflict unspeakable horrors upon themselves before being consumed by flesh-eating larvae. It's what happens when human greed meets the lethal unknown.
And this highlights a massive rule in digital horror. Surviving a cursed location almost always requires a massive, painful sacrifice. To escape the island without being possessed through eye contact, the ship's captain is forced to literally blind himself using the very same blood-soaked blindfold the ancient king used to seal her away in the first place. Survival here is never free. It's gonna cost a piece of your humanity. Section 4. Entities of the Dark.
Okay, let's talk about the death putia, because its sheer physical horror is a total sensory nightmare. It lures you in by mimicking the sweet, innocent voice of a child calling out, "Brother." But the second you turn around, you are face to face with a grotesque 1.5-foot tall demon with inverted feet, pitch-black eyes, and the strength to completely crush you. It entirely subverts your basic human instinct to help, turning it into a lethal trap.
And this is exactly where modern logic just completely falls apart. Rogoff is a rational crime journalist, right? He relies on CCTV and police reports. But once he's marked by a shadow-eating jinn, all those modern tools are completely useless. To stop the entity from claiming his body, he has to embrace ancient brutality, wrapping himself in iron chains and plunging into a vat of acid just to trap the demon. Logic basically dies the second true horror begins.
Honestly, the most terrifying takeaway from all of this, these dark entities are rarely ever truly destroyed. They usually just change locations. After Ragov's ultimate sacrifice, the police cover up the whole thing as a gas leak. But then, the CCTV catches a tiny 1.5-foot shadow waving at the brand new night watchman. The cycle of horror simply resets itself, just waiting patiently for the next victim.
Section 5. Rules of Survival.
So, if we pull together everything we've learned, we get these absolute rules of survival. These are the rules that every single doomed protagonist ended up breaking, whether it's ignoring the local principal's warning, interacting with a lonely hitchhiker on a dark road, or looking back at a strange voice in the dead of night. In the architecture of these digital horror stories, curiosity is basically an open invitation for disaster.
And that leaves us with one final thought for you to ponder the next time you find yourself walking alone down an empty street. You know the rules now, you know exactly how the trap is set. But if you hear a small, helpless voice call out from the shadows right behind you, will you have the willpower to keep walking? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Stay safe out there, and whatever you do, don't look back.